Okay, guys, so we have a very serious topic to talk about today, and that is what is up with the flakiness in the ABDL community. Seriously, that is happening so much.
Yeah, it's definitely something, I mean, it's probably always been there, but it's definitely something I feel like I'm noticing a lot these days, too.
Right, and I see that from littles that have been flaked on by bigs that they supposedly had a dynamic with, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
just
you can
ghosted.
attest. Yeah, like, has that happened to you?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, for sure it has. I feel like, there's this culture that we're in now too, where we do a lot of our discourse online. I mean, especially now with the pandemic, but even sort of leading into that, I feel like there's a lot of this conversation that goes on, but it's behind the coziness of a screen or something like that.
So there's no commitment, and I think that's
exactly.
a big part of it.
I think that is a big part of it. Actually, is you don't really feel like you're committed because it doesn't really feel like a real thing.
Yeah. But I find that a lot of littles, especially if they're in a dynamic with a mommy or daddy, they take that stuff very seriously in their mind, and they're putting themselves out there to be emotionally vulnerable.
Right.
And then when they get ghosted by their mommy and daddy, then they're seriously hurt.
It feels like a betrayal, exactly.
It does, yeah.
No,
and they're genuinely hurt. Like, oh, how come this person doesn't want me anymore? Or wasn't I good enough? And I see that a lot.
Well, I think that's exactly it. The way you said it is so perfect, because again, being more of a little and being ghosted, you are kind of putting yourself in this very vulnerable place where you're trying to find somebody who will accept that part of you and treat you well despite being so vulnerable, or perhaps because you're being so vulnerable. But then when all of a sudden they just kind of cut off all the lines of communication with no real warning or explanation, exactly, just kind of
it's
totally
jarring.
cut you off, exactly. And it definitely takes something which was originally a very comforting and exciting, part of your life, and kind of turns it into this thing that now you're all questioning and second guessing. Was it me? Was it not good enough? Was it not cute enough?
Yeah.
Was I not little enough? Was I too little? Was I too needy? You start thinking of all the reasons that
it's your fault.
What did I do wrong that this big doesn't want to talk to me anymore? And that's not always the case for you littles out there that have felt that way. It doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with you. It could just be that person, had their reasons, and they may be good or bad, but they just, for whatever reason, they just disappeared. But I definitely encourage any bigs that are talking to littles. They are adults ultimately at the end of the day.
And so are you.
Yeah, and they can take, a rejection, or they can take being told that you are busy or whatever. But I feel like it's always better to give a little something.
But if they are busy, why would they just ghost them completely? You know what I mean? It's more than I'm just busy.
I'm just busy,
if I'm busy, then I would say I'm busy the next couple days with family in town or whatever.
Right, exactly.
And I would tell them the actual reason.
Yeah, and I think that's what a big difference between somebody who actually wants to keep a conversation going, but isn't gonna have as much time as usual, versus somebody who's just kind of doing it for funsies, and then when they're over it, just kind of dropping you.
Yeah, and that's hurtful and not cool. And I'm sick and tired of seeing littles being hurt. And bigs, too. Bigs get ghosted. I got ghosted, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
stupid.
not going to say I've never ghosted anybody either myself, and it's not something I'm proud of. Yeah. But it definitely is something that has happened before, and you try and think back, oh, why did I stop talking to that person? And usually, I'd say in any experience where I did it, it wasn't usually for a good reason, unless it was somebody I thought was being scammy. But then it's not really a ghosting.
Well, then you're not being ghosting.
I'm not going to talk to you in the first place because I'm not into that. But
and you're talking about the fake mommies, and then in that case, they're not real.
Yeah, ghost the fake mommies all you want. The fake mommies or daddies who are out there. If 5 minutes after you start talking to them, they're asking you to buy them gift cards, or telling you to send them this or that. Those people are not real.
Yeah, they're not real in the community trying to look for a real connection.
Right, exactly. They're just trying to scam you and get something out of you because they think that you're vulnerable and an easy target. So it's okay to ghost those people. But yeah, even for littles ghosting bigs, that's hurtful for a big too, because a big is looking for somebody to make a connection with, and hopefully somebody who they feel really wants and needs them in their life.
Right.
And when you just kind of turn that off, it's kind of you just shut the love down, and that can be hurtful for a big as well. Like, just because they're big doesn't mean they don't have feelings too. Doesn't mean that they don't want to also, be cherished and thought of and paid attention to either. So
why do you think littles flake? One of my ideas is because they're not ready, or they're purging. They're going through a purge,
right?
And they're trying to get rid of everything ABDL related stuff and people and all of that.
Right, because I feel like the purging isn't always just tossing out all your diapers and binkies or onesies or whatever it is that you may have accrued. Sometimes it's trying to extricate yourself completely from that life, and it does mean cutting ties with people. Again, I feel like you should let people know that you're going through some stuff, or maybe this just isn't something you're into at the moment, or not sure if it's something you want to continue to do with. Like, you can still be
and then
polite and communicate it to the person. Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because I never understand why people have a hard time communicating those things to the other person they're talking about, especially if it's a day-to-day thing.
Yeah, if you're talking about all kinds of other stuff, you think that shouldn't be something you should be shy about.
No, hey, I'm possibly going through a purge. I need a break. I'm very sorry. That's it.
Right, yeah, exactly. Just state your reasons right up front and be, if you don't want to have a whole conversation about it, just be nice and short and just say, hey, I'll talk to you later. Or
I think closure is important. It's
important
exactly. For the other person to understand,
I think most people,
hear something.
Yeah, most people would rather have some sort of closure than just be left hanging. You know what I mean? That's like a to-be-continued episode on TV, and then the season never gets picked up again. You're like, what? No, I'll never find out what happened to Chad,
Right. Or who shot JR.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like giving the other person closure, it's all right, I totally just sort of lost the momentum there, but what I was essentially trying to say is, even if you don't want to be with somebody anymore, it's not necessarily a breakup per se, but it's in that same line, you know what I mean? To just not talk to somebody anymore when you originally had this, a constant communication and a real dynamic between the two of you, to just cut that off because, it's just somebody I've been texting, or, it's just, some, girl I've never met, or some, guy I don't know. That's really not the right kind of way to go about it. There are feelings involved, and people do get hurt when other people just, shut the communication down.
So it seems like what I'm hearing is that one party will think that, it's just texting, it's not real, and another party sometimes takes it seriously.
Yeah, I think sometimes that is definitely the case for some people, especially with the long distance thing. To put some of the onus on myself as well, I've definitely had some daddies and stuff that have come to me and want to have a more actual relationship, even if it's long distance. And that's just not really my jam, so I try to be upfront and honest.
I guess I would tell them the truth. Whatever that truth is, I would just say it. I'm not attracted to you, or I just don't do long distance, or I'm not putting the time in. Now, I'm saying this because I've learned the hard way, because I have put my time in, and I've put weeks in, and I've gotten flaked on. So... yeah, that's not super fun.
Right, when you think there's a real connection there, and then the other person just kind of disappears. You're like, all right, well, maybe that wasn't something. Exactly.
And then I've had people try to come back and apologize, and I don't accept that apology, period, because that time's already over. You already had your chance to say the truth. You had lots of time to do that. Anyone can pick up a phone and be like, hey,
just shoot out a quick text,
or something's going on in my life, my parents are in town. There's no reason to not tell somebody the truth if you're in a daily dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if there is a little bit of that big and little, or even romance sort of involved, I feel like you really definitely owe it to the other person to either be committed, or if you're not going to be committed, to tell them why you're not going to be committed. It's one thing if you're just buddies with somebody and you don't talk to them for a day or few, and then you're like, oh, hey, sorry Joe, I was too busy the last couple of days, how you been?
That's friends.
Right, but when you've got a real big and little, or if say you've already incorporated rules, or the dynamic has gone to the point where you're really involved with one another deeply, and then to just disappear, it doesn't really sit well. And I think I'm with you too. It's harder to want to be involved with somebody again when they come back and they try to be oh, hey. And you're oh, yeah, well, what happened 2 months ago?
So why do you think bigs flake? I have flaked on people. I've been guilty of it, and I felt so shitty. I flaked on a ton of people one time. I used to be in a power dynamic fetish, and I was a top, and I had people that were very, very emotionally and mentally invested in me, that were lifestyle. And when I got out of that fetish left me, I ghosted everybody. Yes, I still have not apologized to some people. I literally just started ignoring them. But in my mind, I was like justifying myself because that top feeling left me. So I didn't have... Okay, number one, I was fucking confused as shit. I was like in emotional turmoil, like really upset at myself because I felt like I let so many people down and I couldn't deal with that. And I was like,
so you kind of beating yourself up a little bit too.
Yeah, I did. And I was like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not a top. So I don't know. I don't have that to give them. Yeah. So I can't give them what they want.
What they're
so
looking for,
I
what they
can't
expect.
be there. Yeah. And that was my justification, was that if there's something wrong with me, I can't be there for them. I've let them down. So I ghosted them. Ta-da.
But then, like you said, like you feel bad about it. So
yeah, I did.
Like, even, like, we all make mistakes, and ghosting people can definitely be one of those mistakes. And I think you can kind of, like, learn from that, too. Like, you see how it feels when you do it to somebody else, and so that, like, kind of inspires you to not want to do it, too.
Yeah. I've been ghosted as a top, like, in power exchange dynamics. And I felt like a lot of the submissive males, they ghosted me because they weren't ready to deal with being a submissive male to a female in real life.
Right. It might be something that's fun in fantasy, or like when you're just, handling your own business, but then when you actually get to like the reality of it, it can be a bit much.
To do all the things that we're talking about.
I think some of that comes through for the littles as well, like the idea of, being with somebody, or especially like when you're like kind of horny and you're talking about it online, like it can seem like it's something like it's like real and something you really want to do. But then when you actually like get the opportunity to do it, you're maybe not as confident in yourself, or you're not, you haven't really done it before, so you're worried about like what the reaction's going to be, or it makes you uncomfortable to think about being seen that way by somebody else. So kind of like you're saying, like the submissive guys, like they're
vulnerability.
Right. Yeah. I think they just maybe haven't gotten to a point where they're really actually ready to be that vulnerable, and so they talk a good game when they're trying to set something up, but then they kind of like lose their nerve or their confidence.
And that's my time too. I mean, maybe it's all fun and games for them, but it's also my time being put into you, into caring for you or training you. And it's tough because I'm never going to get that time back. I could have put it towards something
else or somebody else.
Exactly. So that's really hard because I've been on both sides, and I think the first thing I should do is like to actually reach out to those people in my life that were emotionally attached to me and apologize, because I never did that, and that was literally like 3 years ago.
And honestly, I mean, like, they still might appreciate it, especially if you just come out and be honest. I mean, again, like, I know it's such a cliche, but, like, honesty really is the best policy.
And I know. I just said that, and then I didn't do it myself, so...
Right. Well, sometimes it is kind of hard to, like, practice what you preach as well, you know what I mean? Like, it's so many things, especially stuff like when you're putting yourself out there to be vulnerable, either to meet up with somebody or apologize for why you didn't meet up or why you lost touch. Like, it takes a certain level of courage to, like, admit, like, that you're sorry and that you did something that, hurt somebody else's feelings. Because I think most of the time when you ghost somebody else, you're not really considering them like at all. You're pretty much only just considering like where you're at. So whether you're on the big or the little or the top or the bottom of that dynamic, like you should still try your best to just like be upfront and let this other person that you supposedly have a real connection with actually like know why you're going away or why you don't want to. I mean, people can like handle a lot, I find. Like, you might get angry, or you might be sad, or you might, want to yell and scream about, this thing or that thing. Or
but it's better to have the closure.
Yeah, think this person's a bad person, but, like, it's always better, I think, like you're saying, to have a closure.
So what were the reasons that you had ghosted someone?
Yeah, I think it's probably, there's been some petty times where, like, I just, like, lost interest, or, like I was saying earlier about how, depending on whether or not it seems like a realistic possibility, like... especially like when I was younger and I wasn't maybe as thoughtful of stuff like that, you know, I might like be talking to people and then, you know, sort of have reached what it seemed like, you know, we'd gotten as far as we were going to go.
Right,
so
and it's not going to go any further.
Right, yeah, so might as well just stop talking to them now. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, again, like you're saying, like not giving them that closure.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I've definitely been in a situation before, too, where I was talking to this one guy who was kind of like a switch. But then this other big started talking to me who was more strictly a daddy, which is a little bit more my thing.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't even really realize I was ghosting this other guy because this other guy sort of captivated me a bit more. So I just started chatting with him more. And so this other gentleman kind of like fell off of my radar. And I didn't really like mean to ghost him, but I certainly gave him no idea that like
what
I was going to just start talking. Yeah, exactly.
Mindset. Yeah.
And again, for me, the distance makes a big thing for when I ghost people, unfortunately, and that doesn't necessarily make it right. But again, like I'm more likely to keep in better touch with people who I can have like the real life thing with too, than just the online stuff.
So how can littles protect themselves when they start going into a dynamic or exploring a dynamic with somebody online?
It's such a tough thing because obviously, like, when you're putting yourself in a position like this and you're trying to like grow into the AB you want to be, it's a lot about trust. Like
it is,
especially when you're dealing with like another big. Like you're giving a lot of the control and a lot of your trust and a lot of your like love essentially to this other person. So like they're kind of holding like this big basket full of all of your like super strong feelings. So you kind of want to like hold a little bit of that trust back, knowing that anybody could hurt you, I guess. But you don't want to not trust either.
So does that kind of mean like withholding some of that emotional part of yourself, or or not expecting that much? I think expectations.
I think it's
versus reality.
Yeah, it's not that you shouldn't have any expectations. You shouldn't expect people to like want you or like you, but you do have to kind of like meter that, you know what I mean? You gotta kind of...
I think you should, if you're little, you should have an idea of where you want it to go. Like, do you want to eventually meet up with a daddy or mommy in real life and have a real life dynamic? Either at an event or whatever. And is that the end goal? And I think you should state that.
Right, up front. If this is just, like, simply talking online, or if you want it to be serious, but long distance, or if this is something you want to make like a real thing at some point in time.
And maybe just tell them that you've been flaked on before and it didn't feel good. I think there's...
Yeah, maybe they'll be less likely to just, you know, drop you if they know that it's something that's happened to you before. Or, you know, they'll be more likely to try and hold themselves to a better or higher standard.
Yeah.
Because, it's hard to say, like, what to expect or how to, like, just, like, get past it. Because it's going to suck no matter what, and people are always going to do it. Like...
Right. So I guess all you can do is talk about what you expect out of them.
Right, yeah.
Like,
your expectations are clear.
Yeah, and I would like to meet with you in person at some point. So if this is not something that you want to achieve as well, then maybe
we shouldn't continue talking anymore, or we shouldn't,
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, we can all be friends, but not everybody's going to be best friends. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason we can't be
just
polite
casual
to each other, and, you know, you can have tons of casual conversations. Like, I chat with a bunch of different people online. Some of you are watching this may know me from different Telegram groups or something like that as well. But there is a difference when you go from just, like, casually chatting to having, like, an actual dynamic or a relationship.
Yeah.
It just requires a little bit more attention to detail.
So what would you do to protect yourself as a little talking to a new daddy?
So primarily what I do is, like we were talking about with expectations, I try to sort of measure my expectations as to what do I want to get out of it. And then I'm generally very upfront about like where I'm at or how I'm feeling. I try not to, you know, lead anybody on to a point where it's like...
Let's not lead people on. Let's not say, oh, yeah, we should meet up and do... And
right, if you don't actually want to or you're not actually serious.
No. Like, don't even say that. Why would you say that?
I think people say stuff like that when they're like in the heat of the moment, like they want it to be real because like they're having such a good time right now, but they might not really mean it when they say it.
I see. Huh.
Or not that they don't mean it, like they might mean it at the time, but then sometimes like the reality of it. And I mean, it's easier when you live close by. Like if you live in the same city or even like just like a few hours away, then it's not too hard to meet up. But you know, if like person A is in Texas and person B is in Alaska,
that's a lot more logistics and stuff. Yeah,
that can make it a lot more difficult. Because I know I've met like a lot of people at a long distance who, like, I really enjoy. Sorry, go ahead.
I think if like video chatting makes a big difference as well. Yeah, instead of just texting or whatever.
Right, like actually getting on like Zoom calls for like munches or that one-on-one like video chat.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I understand the video chat can be hard too, like if you live with your parents or even if you have roommates or other people that don't know, you're trying to keep it a secret, it can be hard to like talk about it out loud.
Oh.
But, I mean, find time here and there or, you know.
How can big...
Sorry.
I mean, it's all edited, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I just sort of lost my train of thought there.
How can bigs protect themselves?
Well, I think that one thing bigs should probably know just going into it is that littles in general can be kind of fickle. Sorry, guys. We're just being like honest about us, especially people who are newer to being little that aren't as experienced. That, you know, it might not be something that's like a big part of their life yet, so it might be something they're just exploring.
And maybe never had real life meetups as well.
Exactly.
Because the guy who flaked on me had never had like real... No, he has had real life meetups. Yeah, I think he's just chickened out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that happens sometimes too with bigs. You're dealing with people who are physically adults and generally emotionally, mentally adults, but obviously we are trying to regress in certain ways. I think a lot of littles are not as confident as some other people can be, though some littles are very confident. But I do think that there is something of a disconnect there where you kind of want what you want, but you want to be taken care of or have things sort of like done for you and stuff like that. So I think that some littles too like don't necessarily have like the necessary inner oomph to like follow through on things sometimes as well, or they get like nervous or scared about like, even though it's a desire or a fantasy, it's something they're not like actually really like ready to be seen as or to be treated like.
Okay.
Like I know there's like some littles will like feel like they want to be like treated like a child or something like that, but then when like a big actually does treat them like a kid or tells them no or this or that, like it's like, wait, what?
It's a little much for them. Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is, I think it's like anything else that can be kind of a learning curve to being little, and I do think that meeting up with bigs is a part of that too.
So how can bigs protect themselves?
Like I said, I think the best thing bigs can do to protect themselves is sort of understand the nature of like littles and how some of us can be, and that we can be a bit flighty or a bit flaky, and not that makes it okay that that's what we are, but that there are a lot who are that way. You can also, as a big, like possibly try being like,
so to address
more
that.
like more strict and upfront about that, you know, like really put yourself out there as like the big, you know, like you're kind of take charge of the situation, and maybe that'll make them come to you, or if it pushes them farther away, then maybe they're just not a little who's ready to have that kind of dynamic yet.
Right. So just be honest is what I'm hearing.
I feel like that's like just good for both. Like the best thing to do is just be honest. And it's okay, like you don't have to be, you know, not every little is going to be compatible with every big.
No.
Not every big is going to be compatible with every little.
Hey, I don't think we're meant for each other.
Right, I just might not be the right little for you, or you might not be the right big for me.
You're so nice with how you say shit. I just say it totally different.
Well, I mean,
you're so nice.
You can still be upfront and nice, but there's nothing wrong. Like,
I'm like too honest. I'm like, no, I'm not attracted to you. Like,
yeah, but I mean, at least then you know, like, right? It might, like, it pulls the bottom out from under you for sure, but like, at least you're like, now you're not gonna like hold out hope. At least, so
I don't want any hope.
Like, so I do think it is better just to be upfront, whether you put a little sugar on it or you just be super like real with it. But I definitely think that, again, like we said, before, being honest, honesty is really the best policy in that situation.
I don't think there's anything bad if you're going into the conversation to say, hey, I don't want to be ghosted. And this has happened to me and it really hurts. Please don't ghost me.
Right, yeah.
Just be honest.
Just be honest.
Just say that, bigs and littles. And I think that would set the tone for, hey, I'm not going to put up with bullshit. Right. I'm not going to put up with lies.
Yeah, or let somebody know if you're just not interested in something serious also. Like, even if you're, like, asking not to be ghosted, just, you know, like, be like, look, I'm going to be upfront with you. I'd appreciate it if you be upfront with me. And, like, I'm not looking to have something serious, or I'm not trying to get involved in something crazy. Like, instead of just, like, building something up and then ghosting somebody, just let people know upfront that you're not really, like, into this to win it, you know what I mean? You just want to have, like, just a fun, like, chat buddy, or you're just looking to get off right now, or whatever it is.
Just tell them your goal. If you're looking to get off right now, just say that. Just be like, hey, I just want to have fun times for right now.
Right, exactly.
And they probably do, too, so they know not to, like, emotionally invest themselves.
Like, attach in you, exactly.
Yeah. I know. Now that we're talking about it, all of it seems like common sense. Yeah, it still happens so much. So
yeah, one thing too with this being such a niche thing, like it's, like you say, it's a lot of it's self-confidence and people being comfortable, like with being themselves. Who they are and being seen the way that like it is like that. And I think it's really comes down to, if you know, aren't comfortable yet, just let people know you're not comfortable meeting up, or you don't want to do this, or you're not ready for that. You know what I mean? Like, you can stop a lot of getting flaked on, or keeping yourself from flaking on other people, or from ghosting other people, just by being honest with yourself and then honest with other people.
Guess we covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck out there.
Yeah.
Stay safe. And
thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
Bye.